Well, another lawsuit filed against music mogul Sean Diddy Combs.
Sean Diddy Combs is being sued by a model accusing him of sexual assault.
P. Diddy has found himself in some serious hot water.
In that complaint, Jake, she details an incident that she alleged happened in March of 2016 at a hotel in Los Angeles.
The new allegations against Sean Diddy Combs.
Mr. Combs shared that he was responsible for the shooting in the nightclub in New York City with rapper Shyne.
But could Diddy's past be coming back to haunt him?
That crime could be reopened and say this is a RICO predicate act, and then you add a couple more acts under the sex trafficking, the drugs.
He shared that artist and Mr. Combs' girlfriend at the time, Jennifer Lopez, aka J-Lo, carried the gun into the club for him and passed him the gun after he got into an altercation with another individual.
And certainly that 1999 shooting could be the cornerstone of a case like that.
But before we get there, let me ask you this. Are you sure it was Puffy?
With every fiber of my being.
Okay. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. I want to welcome you to the Making the Brand podcast. This is a special episode today. If you've been watching the television, if you've been listening to the radio, if you've been glued to your phone or your computer looking at what's going on the internet, you cannot help but see the breakdown and the debacle of Bad Boy Entertainment and Sean Combs. Just recently, we saw a month ago, the police, the Homeland Security raided his home. We saw back in November, Miss Cassie released a lawsuit. She threatened a lawsuit against him. They settled out of court. And then just a week ago, we saw a video that was obtained by CNN, exclusively obtained by CNN, where he really showed how monstrative he could be. We saw him kicking, we saw him punching, we saw him throwing bases at Cassie. And, as all of this was going on, I got a really special guest with us today. As all of this was going on, I met Natania a year ago. We did a photo shoot with her daughter, brilliant girl, like out of this world. And she mentioned, we connected during the photo shoot. And during the photo shoot, we talked and she expressed to me, hey, I'm her, I'm that girl. And I was like, okay. And I was intrigued, but that was her, that's not something that we wanted to sit and harp on, especially in a moment when we were doing this shoot and everything was going good. The energy was high. And I think her daughter was getting ready to compete in a big time pageant. So I wanted to keep the energy high. Didn't go back and talk about it. But when I saw the Cassie video come out, I was like, man, the things that is really going on is true. And then I saw the apology come out. And when I saw the apology, I thought about Natania. My heart went out to Natania because here we are 24, 25 years later, and Natania didn't get an apology. And then a few days later, we saw Shyne come out and publicly denounce Sean Combs. I don't want to call him Diddy, it's whack. We saw Shyne come out and denounce, if you know Sean Barrow, the big clone, the dude came out sounding like Biggie, whatever. Yeah, he came out and denounced Sean. And I thought about Natania. Like, we didn't get that 24, 25 years ago when this incident that took place happened. I don't know if you guys remember, 1999, there was a club shooting. And what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and introduce Natania Rueben to the Making the Brand podcast. This is like brand line today. I want to thank you for joining us.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Listen, it's been a minute. We spoke. I remember seeing you a year ago and we were shooting Baby Girl and I was so impressed with her and just everything. And like I said, when this happened and the apologies and the denouncements, nobody apologized to you.
They didn't. And it's ironic that out of everything that's been going on, I've been triggered, but the apology triggered me in a different way because for the past 24 years, it is the number one question I've been asked concerning this case. Have they ever apologized? And so it was like a double-edged sword. I was extremely happy that Cassie received that, especially in light of the fact that she had to be re-traumatized by the indignity of her abuse being displayed for the eyes of the global world.
Right.
I felt horrible for her. But it also highlighted that apology that I never received and would probably never receive.
So the people at home are probably like, well, what is he supposed to apologize for? So
He's supposed to apologize for shooting me in the face.
Wow. So walk me through what happened that day, that night, events leading up to. Walk me through as much as you can, because I know we have some constraints. So
yeah, I am bound by certain legal things. But December 27th, 1999 is a day that lives forever in infamy, and in my life and in the annals of time, especially in the culture. Outside of the killings of Tupac and Biggie, it was the biggest and remains to be the biggest crime of the hip hop industry. And so that's a plate that I will wear attached to my name and my persona. But I went out with some girlfriends to help my friend Big Stacy promote her upcoming event on Christmas Eve. I hadn't been in the club scene for a while. I had gotten saved, and I was very at peace with that. And so that was my lane. But in honor of my friend, as we do, we sacrifice ourselves to support the people that we love. And so that's why I was there that night. There were so many things that happened that highlighted and hyper-focused me to know something's going on different right now.
Right.
I mean, down to my friend's dog jumping on my back, knocking my earring out of my ear as I was about to walk out the door under the fish tank that broke earlier the week and cut my finger. It was so many things.
Wow.
But, I'm a go with the flow person, and I have faith, so I walk on faith.
Right.
But that particular night, we arrived at the club, and instantly when we got...
Before you go, your baby boy said something to you.
Yeah.
Before you left that night.
That's right. He said, don't go, you're going to go up to the sky.
How old was he?
He was 7.
He said what?
Don't go, you're going to go up to the sky.
Wow.
And hindsight being 2020, and knowing the man that he has become, I know that he too has a gift, and the Holy Spirit was speaking through him. And it just served to hyper-focus me on everything.
Right.
When we arrived at that street that night, an unusual situation was afoot. 2 ambulances were halfway on the sidewalk and halfway in the street, isolating traffic to one lane, one on either side. And I said, my God, are they expecting somebody to die here? What's going on? We chuckled, and one of those ambulances took me to the hospital.
Wow.
It just was really unreal. Everyone knew that I had been saved and turned into kind of a holy roller extremist at the time. And so many, it was such a massive crowd outside of the door, and so many people greeted me like, Eb, what you doing here? Holy roller.
Right.
Not you out with the sinners?
Tonight? You preaching tonight? Yeah,
I mean, it was hilarious. And it, it gave me a laugh, and I it wasn't lost on me that I had, swung the pendulum from one end to the other. So I took it in stride. I have thick skin. It was my friends playing with me. So eventually there was still a massive crowd outside, but because Stacey is such a known promoter, and we all were pretty, known in our own regards, businesswomen and pillars in our culture, they rounded us up, Stacey's crew, and took us in, even though hundreds of people were still outside. When we got in, it was exclusively packed. Now
what club was this?
Club New York.
Okay.
The irony, I had beauty salons. I've had, everybody that knows me knows my beauty salons. So I had an normal utensil that we always use called a rat tail comb in my pocketbook.
Right.
That's just a plastic comb with a little metal tip so you can make a straight part.
Right. That's it.
A very innocuous, item. The young lady who was the security guard, her name was Sharice Myers, who ended up lying during the trial, ridiculously, accosts me. Give me this. You can't take this in. This is a weapon.
Hold on. She lied, about you taking the comb into the club?
No, she lied about her protecting Puffy and that he didn't do anything. They paid her to lie. But she took this rat tail comb in dramatic flair as if I had a Uzi submachine gun in my purse. It was a comb.
Okay. It was a comb that you do
By
hair with.
contrast, you allow people to walk in with guns.
Right. Clearly.
I think there's this hierarchy. So I've found in my life that people desperately want to be adjacent to power, influence, money, popularity, all of that. And they will put their integrity and morals to the side for that purpose. It's disgusting. And it was a good, expensive rat tail comb, mind you.
Listen, okay.
But, I digress. Just trying to bring a little levity to the situation.
Right.
And so we got in, and it wasn't lost on me that I was in an environment that I no longer felt like I belonged to or felt comfortable in. And so I did not venture all the way into the club. I stayed relatively to the front, across from the bar.
Right.
There was a little railing.
Did you drink?
I didn't drink. I had juice. There was a little railing that had, see, I'm so passionate and resolute in everything I do.
Right.
So once I got saved and I made that commitment to God, I didn't feel like I needed to delve into those things.
Right.
It just was not time. Now, I've since let that pendulum swing back to the center, and I have a little drink at times. But, at that time, I was committed to my salvation.
Okay.
And so I did not drink anything. And the irony of that is that I was offered a drink. Right across from me was the gentleman who they got into the scuffle with.
Okay.
His name is Scar. And contrary to what the media says and all of this stuff, Scar was a really great person. I knew him personally.
They kicked it like Scar was just a goon.
He was.
Okay.
He was.
Scar was a
but
goon.
in all things, there's duality. You can have a goon with a heart of gold,
True.
And you can have someone of ill repute. It's just how it works, the duality of life.
Right.
His mother lived across the street from my beauty salon. So I knew him. I knew all the guys in the neighborhood, all the what we call the street parliament.
Right.
I'll call them that. They hold in court, the Congress of the Hood.
Right.
And so when I first opened my salon there, they saw my diligence and that I was this single woman, and they all espoused to me, hey, Eb, you doing your thing. We got you. We watching your back. We got you.
Right.
I worked in an industry that was heavy cash, single woman. They made sure nobody robbed me.
Right.
In fact, a lot of people got robbed except me.
Except you. You was good.
So I was good there.
Okay.
So when we were out that night, he was standing at the bar and he said, what up, Eb? You want a drink?
Who said that?
Scar said
Okay,
that to
Scar,
me.
okay.
And I said, no, I'm good.
Okay.
He was laughing at me. He said, oh, I forgot. You
Gotcha.
Miss Holy Road.
Gotcha.
And we chuckled.
I got to preach
I said,
in the morning.
there you go. I said, give me a little pineapple juice or something. And I drank a
right.
pineapple juice.
Okay.
And he even joked like, you got me ordering pineapple juice in the club. It was hilarious, but we let it was what it was.
Right.
In the hood, you get that, you can respect. We accept all things and all kinds.
Right.
And so I just held my corner.
Right.
And I had my juice in hand. I didn't venture into the club. I didn't necessarily feel like I should have been there. And I was only there for an hour and 15 minutes before I got shot.
So, okay. So you were only there for an hour 15.
Hour and 15 minutes.
75 minutes.
75 minutes.
And so did you see, of course the climate changed.
The climate change. So at that time, I knew that the club, my girlfriends were venturing out, doing their things. You know how it is.
Right.
We have a point, a ground zero where we all stand, but then everybody goes and does their thing, and then people come back.
Right.
And so I stayed in that spot, by that railing.
I've never heard it referred to as ground zero.
Ground zero, baby.
That's new. All right.
Mm-hmm. So, everybody just kept going and coming back and basically checking on me or checking in with me. You know how it is.
Right.
And then there came a time when one of my girlfriends was there and she said, I need to go to the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, okay, me too. And I walked with her to the bathroom. And it was then that I was able to see how heavy it was with celebrities. Because like I said, I didn't venture all the way in. It was packed on the dance floor. You had to descend some stairs and then walk into that arena.
Right.
We went to the restroom on the outer skirts of the club and came right back. As I got back to the spot, standing there relaxing, a little while later, the traffic. So where I was standing was across from the bar, and it was en route from the dance floor to the front door.
Okay.
So as this entourage of people started to walk through the club, it started to swell. There was like pushing, shoving. You know how that is. It's whoever the hot person of the group is, whether celebrity or hood celebrity, in the front. His peoples, and then entourage, his people trying to hangers on, trying to,
bodyguards, a whole nine.
The bodyguards up front, but the hangers on trying to let me see if I could go with them. Let me move where they move.
Gotcha.
And that type of situation. And it just so happens, Shyne's song was on.
Mm-hmm.
And this memory plays.
Let's give it some context. What song was playing?
I don't even know the name of it, honestly. Like I know the song, but I can't remember it was that whoa kind of. I can't remember the name of it. So they're walking through, and at that time, my girlfriend Kelly was standing. Well, former friend was standing with me, and
it looked like it's F. Kelly. Mm-hmm. All right, Kelly,
and a few more, but I digress. But we were standing together, and at that point, Shyne came through and reached up and was like, "Ab, Kelly, what's up?" And so people were trying to cut under, but he reached over the top of their heads.
So Shyne, you and Shyne were connected.
Baby.
Y'all were close.
Baby. Shyne got his deal. They shopped his rap on my song in my studio session to shop and get his deal.
Wow.
We were friends.
Wow.
He used to hang out in front of the beauty salon that a friend of mine opened that I worked at briefly before I opened my salon.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So he says, "Hey, Eb."
The ties that bind. So he reached over the crowd. We just touched hands, me and Shyne, Kelly and Shyne, and he was making his way through. Mm-hmm. Now, as I stated, Scar, and his name is, his mama called him Matthew.
Right.
But Scar, as he's known in the street, his back was to that crowd.
Mm-hmm. Now, from what I understand, Matthew and
Scar
and Diddy had Sean.
And how that happened was, you know how pompousness and the male ego presents itself in the hood.
Absolutely.
Just as they had reached past where Shyne touched our hands, Black Rob's song came on. Mm-hmm. And so it was whoa. It was that whole, at the time, I mean, the intro to the song just was crazy. It hit hard and people were feeling itself. So when, I guess, in feeling itself and he swung out, he pushed Scar. Okay. And his drink splashed in his face.
Oh, wow.
And so without even knowing who was behind him, he elbowed back. But Scar was known.
Shyne elbowed back.
Scar elbowed back.
Oh, okay.
They bumped into Scar.
Okay, got you. Scar elbowed back.
His back to the crowd.
Okay.
Splashing his drink in his face, and he threw his bows like, "Get off of me."
Right.
When he did that, I don't really believe that it mattered who it was because he was that dude in the street and everybody knew him. Right. So, but when he did that, of course, now the bodyguards, the whole entourage, they feel like they want to push back. Right. And so somebody in Scar's crew had a wad of money and whap!
Hit Scar in the face with the money.
Hit Puffy.
Oh, in the face with the money.
With the money. Okay. And money was just flew into the air and was raining down like... You ever see Paid in Full? There was a scene where money was just
falling from the sky. Yeah.
That's what it was.
Wow.
And so people were simultaneously trying to grab for money in amazement, looking around.
Right.
The Brooklyn in me told me, this ain't gonna go right. Uh-huh. I start looking around for my friends.
Right.
Like, where y'all at?
Right. We got to get back to ground zero.
And I see them instantly. I see Shyne and Puffy start backing back towards that front door. Because now there's a scuttlebutt. Mm-hmm. Backing back towards that front door. And as they back, I watched them both reach over and draw from their hip. I instantly turned my head to tell my friends, "Guys, watch out, watch out." And as soon as I was turning back, I hear a voice that says, "Relax, you are about to be hit." I heard God talk to me like I'm talking to you. And I said, "No." And as I turned back, pow, pow. And I saw both muzzle flashes. They literally obliterated my sight. It was that bright. And by the time my sight was cycling back, I felt like I got hit with a flaming hot sledgehammer in my face. And one of the most profound things Pastor A.R. Bernard of Christian Cultural Center said to me when I got saved just 2 months before was, "This is not the end. This is the beginning. You are about to be tested. Life is in the power of your tongue. Life and death is in the power of your tongue. Choose wisely." Right. So the first thing I said was, I threw my hands up and said, "No, God, don't take me. I got children to raise. I'm not finished working. Don't take me."
Right.
Because it was so profound. It was like a flaming hot, I described it as Paul Bunyan's flaming hot sledgehammer hitting me in my face. And all hell broke loose. Everybody started running for that front door. And as they ran for the front door, something very unique started to happen to me. I literally believe on that day, my flesh died. As that cold air from that December 27th morning started rushing in, I could feel like an episode of Star Trek when they were teleporting to, and he said, beam me up, Scotty, and they pixelated.
Right.
That's how my body felt. I was pixelating, breaking apart. I ceased being 100% solid flesh on that day. I promise you.
Wow.
I don't know what it was or what it is that I ascended to, but I stopped being what I was prior to that.
Wow.
And I could feel the air rush to me and through me like a loosely knit sweater.
Wow.
I can feel it now.
Wow.
It's palpable 24 years later. And as I stood there, it was like a TV show where you see a commercial where you see that one person standing still, but traffic and everything is zooming past.
Right.
That's what was happening. And when I looked over to the side, I see a body on the floor. Now, mind you, I didn't even realize that I had met this guy before. All I saw was a motionless body while we were the only two still things. Everything else was speeding, and he and I were still. And I looked down, and in holy roller fashion, I said, oh, God, we're both going to die from the same thing. I have to pray for him. I don't know if he's saved. And so in the midst of this.
Wait. So you are
shot
and
conscious.
Conscious. Did you fall?
I did not fall. I fell afterwards. I prayed for him because I didn't know if he was saved.
Went to him,
and I didn't want him to face God without covering.
Wow.
I prayed for him. And then as people were running from the back of the dance floor, a bunch of girls bumped into me and knocked me down. And when I fell, my leg was twisted out and it got trampled. I didn't just get shot. I also tore my medial meniscus and had to have surgery to correct that as well.
Damn. Okay.
And so in a matter of time, when the girl fell on top of me, I remember this girl touching the back of her hair and looking back and looking at her hands.
Like I'm bleeding.
Like, what is this feeling on my hair?
Right.
It was the projectile blood from my face all in her hair.
Wow.
And she just was looking at her hands and she just screamed. And I'm tapping on the floor for my friends. I'm like, because when they bumped into me, a bunch of people fell.
Right.
And I said, Kelly, I'm calling everybody's name.
Right.
Y'all okay?
So you're still conscious. You're still
I
aware.
never lost consciousness.
Okay.
I'm calling everybody's name, checking on them. I'm like, you guys okay? And they said, we're okay, Eb. We're okay. Everybody's okay. I said, I'm not okay. And they said, yes, you are. I said, no, I got shot in my face.
Wow.
And they pushed the girl off of me. And that's when they looked at my face.
Wow.
And everybody connected with me just started screaming. The crazy thing is, every time I looked at somebody, they were like aghast and grabbing their face. And I could not stop thinking. I mean,
how bad?
In a flash of vanity.
Vanity, yeah.
What do I look like? Because people looked horrified.
Right.
And it felt like all of the flesh on my head had rushed to this spot. So I didn't know what I looked like because everything was tight right here.
Right.
And I was just like, people were looking at me like it was the abominable snowman or something. I kept saying, what do I look like?
Right.
But people started, then we heard another loud boom, boom. And it wasn't shots, but it was some kind of loud toppling of something. And everybody else hit the front door. And I found myself standing there with this body that I thought was a dead body. And out of the blue, these two sisters. And I want to shout out to them. I've known them. I knew them in that whole era. Keisha and Red.
Shout out to
They
Keisha.
were
Shout out to Red.
sisters. They were, little hood sisters, Brooklyn flavor.
Right.
And one was a bodyguard. They were bodyguards for like Foxy Brown, Little Kim, just any female that was in the industry. That's the work they did.
Right.
And they had edge to them. They were regular Brooklyn chicks and they had edge to them. And I always liked them. They used to come through my shop, And I thank God for them because when everybody else ran away, they came to me.
Right.
And they were so skilled in whatever, I don't know what training in their life they had endured. They understood the dichotomy of not rushing on me.
Right.
They, Red dove over the bar and grabbed a bunch of paper towels. And Keisha was saying, come to me, Ab. Walk to me. Walk to me. She wasn't that far away from me. But in my recollection, it's my belief that they didn't want to put me into shock by just rushing to me.
Right.
Everybody else took off.
Right.
Now, there were a few people moving around, and I saw somebody circle around from where we were, and there was a side door almost by that railing where I had been standing. And it was like 2 or 3 people, and they ran in the door. I remember a guy with long locks, and they ran in the door, and they looked at us, and she said, hold the door, and they slammed it shut. So she went over there and pounded on the door. Open this effing door. You see us? Open this door. Eventually somebody, I don't know who opened it, but somebody did open the door, and it was bright inside because it was still that dim dusk kind of look in the nightclub, but it was light, bright, ultraviolet lights inside that room. And what I realized it was the kitchen connected to the corresponding hotel. And I could see, what appeared to be, just to be illustrative with my words, it looked like a lot of shorter Mexican men with aprons on just walking around, startled, looking like...
What's going on?
And I can never forget that black and white tile pattern. And there looked like there were 9 million footsteps of my blood going every direction. And I was so freaked out by it. I literally saw 5 boxes piled kind of askew. And I knew there was carrots in them because they literally had that Bugs Bunny look with the carrots and the little green stem hanging off, and they were poking out of the holes in the boxes. And it was 5 boxes. And so that would look like the only stable thing. And I went and stood by the 5 boxes and held on with all these paper towels.
Wow.
And I was bleeding profusely. People were just going every which way. It was crazy.
So fast forward some, just a little bit, not too much. We're shot in the face. We appear to look away, right? And you're looking at carrots in a box. You see footsteps in your blood. Talk to me about, okay, we get into the ambulance. We go to the hospital.
I didn't just get into the ambulance. It took a while.
Okay. How long are we talking?
It took quite a while. It was so while I was standing by those carrots, everybody started. There was a door to the side. Everybody started trying to rush through that door.
Right.
And I didn't know what was beyond that door, and it was dark beyond the door. But people were saying, "Come on, go this way, go this way." And so I too approached the door. I had my pocketbook. My pocketbook was, you have a small club pocketbook. So I had it on the loop was on my wrist like this, and I'm holding paper towels. As I approached that doorway, God said to me, touch the floor. Now, I'm shot in the face. I think I'm dying. What am I going to lose touching the floor? So I'm trying to be obedient.
You did think you were, that was
I
it?
thought I was dying.
Okay.
I thought I was dying. I didn't feel flesh.
Right.
The only feeling that I could feel, I couldn't even feel my leg hurting. I could feel that area in my face.
Right.
And so God said, touch the floor as I walked through this doorway. Now, mind you, hundreds of people had run through this doorway.
Right.
I touched the floor without even looking, and I felt this metal. I didn't know what it was at the time, but God said, put it in your bag. And I stuck it in my bag and kept going. Just then a man comes from out of nowhere from behind and taps me and says, in the dark, follow me. So I look at him like, who is this? And I recognize him to be the club owner. The club owner had a couple, I guess, brothers or cousins, and they all looked alike. They had this resemblance. And I recognized it to be one of them. I knew those facial features. It was one of them. Now, I thought the irony of him tapping me on my shoulder, that told me he only knew who I was because he watched it on a video camera. Because why would you tap me on my shoulder out of all these people?
Right.
So he started leading me through this series of entrances and doorways, and it was back into the club. But we were in the VIP area. And all of a sudden, some loud boom occurred. I didn't know what it was. He took off and left me there.
Yeah, I got a question about that. But before we get there, let me ask you this. Are you sure it was Puffy?